All right, today we're going to talk about a really radical idea. It's something that completely shook the ancient world, and honestly, it still challenges us today. We're talking about what it really means to tear down the walls that divide us.
Wow, that's a really tough statement to hear, isn't it? The most segregated hour in America is still Sunday morning. I mean, that gets right to the heart of what we're talking about. So, we're going to dive into an ancient story that, believe it or not, speaks directly to this modern problem. It's a story all about unlearning a lifetime of prejudice.
Okay, so to really get just how revolutionary this whole message was, we have to rewind the clock a bit. We've got to go back in time. See, the world that the very first church was born into, well, it was a world defined by walls. I mean, both visible and invisible ones.
And these weren't just casual suggestions. These categories were incredibly rigid. You had Jews and Gentiles. I mean, they wouldn't even share a meal together. Men held pretty much all the authority over women. Slaves, they were literally considered property. Basically, every single part of society was built around these deep, sharp, uncrossable lines. And then right into that fractured world, this message of Jesus lands like an absolute bombshell. This gospel, this good news, it wasn't just, a new set of religious ideas. No, it was a fundamental challenge to the entire social order. It basically said, hey, all those walls you built, they don't matter. It declared that everyone, and I mean everyone, regardless of their background, was welcome in God's family. So how does this big, abstract idea actually play out? Well, it gets very, very personal in the story of one of the key apostles, Peter. And let me tell you, he is about to have his entire worldview just completely turned upside down. So try to picture this. You've got Peter, a really devout guy who has followed the strict Jewish dietary laws his entire life. He's praying, and suddenly he has this vision. He sees this huge sheet descending from heaven, and it's filled with all the animals he's been taught his whole life are unclean and forbidden. Then a voice from heaven says, "Kill and eat." And Peter's immediate reaction is, well, it's basically no way. He says, I have never eaten anything impure or unclean. He spent his entire life avoiding this stuff. But the command doesn't just happen once. It's repeated a second time and then a third time. The message is crystal clear. Peter, you need to pay attention to this. And then comes the line that changes absolutely everything. A voice says, "Do not call anything impure that God has made clean." I mean, this is a direct shot at Peter's most deeply held beliefs about what's clean and what's not, who's in and who's out. And Peter's about to figure out pretty quickly that this vision had very little to do with his lunch menu. This wasn't about food. It was a powerful metaphor, getting him ready for a huge, radical shift in how he saw people. And this isn't just a theory either. Peter's vision is immediately put to the test. He's about to be forced to take this abstract lesson and apply it in a real-world, totally barrier-breaking encounter. Literally, just as the vision ends, some men show up at the door. They're there to take him to the home of a man named Cornelius. Now get this, Cornelius isn't just a Gentile, a non-Jew. He's a Roman centurion. He's part of the occupying army. For Peter, a devout Jew, to even step foot in his house, that was crossing a massive cultural and religious line. It just wasn't done. And right here, you can almost see the gears turning in Peter's head. The vision suddenly clicks into place. It's like a light bulb goes off. On one hand, you have his entire life, his tradition, screaming, "Stay away, he's unclean." But on the other hand, you have this shocking new revelation from God. I don't play by those human rules. And this leads to Peter's big aha moment. He declares, I now realize how true it is that God does not show favoritism. This, right here, is a massive turning point for the entire early church. He's saying the message isn't just for one group of people. Nope, it's a universal invitation. God doesn't have a VIP list. So Peter's personal breakthrough, it becomes a cornerstone for this new Christian faith. Now let's see how another key figure, the Apostle Paul, puts it. He wrote a passage that some people have called the Magna Carta of humanity. And honestly, this verse from Galatians is an absolute earthquake. It takes all the biggest divisions of the first century, the ones society was literally built on, and just declares them totally irrelevant in this new community in Christ. I mean, look at how he just systematically tears down the walls. He goes right down the list. That deep racial barrier between Jew and Gentile, gone.
That huge social gap between a slave and a free person? Erased. The strict gender hierarchy? Leveled. The point is, in this new community, everyone stands on the exact same equal ground.
And the result? It was absolutely revolutionary. The first churches were these strange, diverse communities that must have looked so weird to the outside world. You might have a wealthy Roman woman worshiping right next to her own slave, not as master and property, but as equals. It was a real, tangible demonstration of a completely new way of being human together. So, okay, that's a great story from 2,000 years ago. But why does it still matter so much? Well, because if we're being really honest with ourselves, Peter's struggle, his struggle to unlearn his prejudice, that's a struggle we still face every single day.
Yeah, we might use different labels now, but the basic tendency is exactly the same. We still draw lines. We draw them based on nationality, race, gender, politics, social status, you name it. We still create an us versus them. And a lot of the time, we're just protecting our own comfort instead of answering that radical call to welcome everyone.
And that means that true welcoming is so much deeper than just being polite, right? It's not about just tolerating people. It's an active and, yeah, sometimes really uncomfortable process. It's about letting our own biases get challenged and dismantled so we can finally start to see people the way God sees them.
Okay, so let's get personal for a second. Let's just be honest with ourselves. Who are the people you mentally label as outsiders? Who are you keeping at arm's length that Jesus would pull up a chair for and invite right to the table?
Every single day, in all our little interactions, we're making a choice. Are we building bridges to people who are different from us, or are we just adding another brick to the walls of our own comfort zones?
You know, this is the exact question Peter had to face. Real, radical welcoming. It's often uncomfortable. It takes humility. It means you have to be willing to be challenged. So the question is our personal comfort more important than God's mission to create this truly unified community?
And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. God is in the business of tearing down walls. He's running a demolition project. So the question for every one of us is simple. Are we building with him? Or are we, maybe without even realizing it, trying to rebuild the very walls he's working so hard to tear down?